Welcome to Mosaik. Today's program is going to be a bit different because we are going to do it in English, which is a first for me. But the reason for doing so is that my guest is an internationalist and he has an international audience for his work and for the TV programs that he's doing here. He's my distinguished colleague at TV København. Welcome to you, Bashy Quraishy.
Thank you, Mads. Thank you for the invitation.
Besides being a host here on our TV station,
Yes.
you do a lot of international, very interesting work,
Yes.
which is my reason for wanting to talk to you, because I don't know a lot about that.
Thank you.
But before we delve into this, I would like to hear a little bit about your background.
Sure.
Because you were born in India, grew up in Pakistan,
Yeah.
had some education in Germany and America. How did you end up in Denmark?
Well, as you said, I have this very varied background. And when I was young, I wanted to study philosophy and be a teacher. I have always wanted to be a teacher. My dad wanted me to be an engineer and study engineering. So I had to change everything, but I manipulated him and said, I would like to study engineering, but outside. So I went to Germany to study. I learned German language. Then after a while, I didn't like so much the cold and very upright way of dealing with people. So I went to America, finished my studies there, got a job with an international company, construction company. And first I was...
So you finished as an engineer?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
And I got a job in Bahamas with this company, and then I moved to Canada, where I lived for a while. And in all these movements, I was supposed to go back to Pakistan, according to the wishes of my family. But when you're young, you don't think straight, You think about enjoying life, traveling, meeting people. So when in the end I said to my family, I would like to come, and they were very happy, so they arranged a big reception, and I never went back.
You never went back?
No, from Canada I went to Poland, Sweden, and Denmark, where I met Kim Schumacher at the central station, stayed at his home. And I found at that time what I was looking for, a country with openness, kindness, democracy, human rights, whatever we always say, Danish values. I felt very safe. I felt at home in Denmark.
But it was cold here.
It was cold, but besides that, there was also a lot of beautiful people, And so 1 month became 2 months, became 3 months. And when I finally woke up from this joy, I contacted my family again. I said, I'm on my way back. My dad was very angry. He said, I disown you. You're not my son. Stay where you are if you're so happy. So that is how I got stuck in Denmark.
Okay.
So I came as a tourist, not as a refugee or an immigrant.
No. And then you stayed.
I stayed here now, I will not say too many years, but enough years to feel Danish inside.
And you actually speak a very eloquent and beautiful Danish, but we do this in English due to your international audience and contacts.
You're right, because I think that the work we do, the work you do, and we do here in TV station, it must be spread. It should be visible. People should know what is happening in our little beautiful Denmark. So that is why I'm very happy that you want to use a language which is international. Otherwise, Danish is beautiful.
Okay. Well, I hope it'll work out. But I think it's interesting let's wrap up this background story.
Okay. Come back to Denmark.
Yeah. So did you ever reconcile with your father?
Unfortunately not. He died in 1976, and he had standing orders to my family not to contact me. And that created a lot of sadness, both among my family in Pakistan and myself. And I can tell you two beautiful stories from 1970 when I decided to stay here. Soon after that, my mom, without telling my dad, wrote a letter to Queen Margaret when she became the queen.
Okay.
And very beautiful letter she wrote that my son lives in your kingdom. Please find him and ask him to write to me. I miss him a lot.
She didn't know how to get in contact with you, so she wrote to the Queen.
Exactly.
Very
and
nice.
think a country which I'm so much in love, actually, you know, and also hate the policies at the same time, that the Queen sent a messenger from the royal palace to the chief of foreign police, foreigners, and asked him to find me, asked him to come to his office and write a letter to my mom.
So it worked.
Yeah, I mean, at that time there was not many people with minority background.
No.
So police chief, he knew almost everybody who's who. So when he called my office where I was working and introduced himself as chief of Politi, you know, I was shaking in my boots. I say, what did I do? Exactly. That. I said, what did I do? He said, you did nothing, but you are not a nice person. Oh, and come to my office right away. Mess, when I came there, and I saw on his table a cup of coffee, a letter from my mom, a letter from the Queen to him, a beautiful royal pad with a golden pen. You know, I started crying, really, when I read the letter. I wrote a letter which was soaked with my tears. It was sent back to Queen. Queen posted it to my mom. And my mom had it until her last day, you know. So it tells you how beautiful Denmark was at that time.
Yeah, some things have changed.
Very much. Another experience, if I may, at that time, Danish was very difficult to learn. So people didn't know, and I went to Folke University, learn, but you had to practice, you know. So I had to go to Amma to a party, and I didn't know how to do that. So I stopped the police car. And I said, because I came from Canada, and there you could do that, you know. So I said to him, officer, I have to go in this direction somewhere. Could you help me? You know what he said? Hop in.
So he took you there.
He drove me there. I was telling left, right. And he drove me there, and he gave me his telephone number and his present number, and he said, anytime you need any, please call us. So these two experiences, Mas, are sitting in my heart so deeply that, you know, I miss that Denmark, you know.
Yeah, I can understand, because it's not the image of the present Denmark.
You're right.
That foreign people who come here as guests or as immigrants, they don't see that kind of Denmark.
Exactly.
We can get a bit back to that.
All right.
Okay, and so you stayed. I remember from when I was probably a teenager, I saw you. You were politically active. And you were already then wearing this trademark beret,
yes.
So you were very recognizable. Also because, as you said, there were not many of your kind, not many foreigners, and especially not. But you were representing the political party SF.
Yes.
For how long time did you do that?
Well, it is also one of the very beautiful stories. I met one of the founders and the chairman of Socialist Party, Mr. Geert Peterson, in a restaurant. We were sitting, eating ours, and I like to talk with my neighbor, you know. So I started speaking with him and found out that he was one of the most respected politicians. And in my student days, I was also interested in politics with Pakistan People Party, which is like Socialist Party. And when I told him, he said, why don't you join the party? And he wrote me a beautiful letter to come and join. So I joined the party. But again, you know, one thing is there's a socialist party. When I look at their party program of 24 pages in one of their you know, annual meeting, there was only 4 lines about people with minority background. So I went on the dais in front of cameras and I said, I'm very disappointed. You know, there should be more about ethnic minorities and do some practical ways to help them. And he didn't like it, you know. So he went on TV and scolded me.
So Gerd Petersen didn't like that?
No. Well, you know, you had to be a party soldier. Whatever you do, never criticize your party. And that's not me. You know, I would even criticize the president and prime minister. I've done that many times. So I left, and then I got involved with NGOs.
Okay, so that was a very brief
encounter with Danish political establishment.
Party politics. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So and when was that?
I think it was in the early 80s.
In the early 80s. Yeah. Okay, but since then you have been doing a lot of NGO work.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so we should hear about that.
Okay.
Because this is the part that I know a little bit about, that you do, but not exactly what it is.
Okay. Well, after I left Socialist Party, I decided that the best way to serve people will be to help those who cannot help themselves, or who maybe don't know the language, don't know how the system works, don't know the laws. So in 1982, when I came back from England, I went to England in 1980 to study again in not engineering but hotel management and international marketing. So in 1982, at that time, you know, I started thinking on that level. So we first established one NGO called Pakistan People's Society, which was helping Pakistani minorities in their integration. You know, we were sitting in Interior Ministry's board. We were making conferences, interviews in television, as you say. You know, we were every day almost in newspapers. And then from there, I got involved with other NGOs. We established a Danish network of NGOs, INSOM, and then later a point with 50 NGOs. And at that time, there was a need for NGOs to give suggestion proposals to the government and say, hey, we are here too. So when you make a law, just also consult us. And it went very, very well until this last government of Mr. Anders Fogh Rasmussen came together with Danish People Party, and they totally smashed
2002.
2011, 2001.
Yes.
So they stopped all financial help to NGOs, including minorities, and they were decimated, you know. But in my life, it has always been a blessing that I have a 10 years period, beautiful work, and then it goes up, and then another. And at that time, in 80s, you remember EU was under construction. But we wanted that also in EUs, there should be some laws to protect minorities. So I got involved in a very useful movement called Starting Line. At that time, EU was not EU, but it was EF, you know. And then I became one of the founder of ENAR, European Network Against Racism, you know, which is the largest network of anti-racist NGOs. So that is from Denmark to EU. It was a very smooth sailing.
Okay, so that you took the NGO work to an
EU
international
level.
or European
exactly.
level, you could say. Yeah.
And it's also because there is much more listening and understanding on EU level.
More than in Denmark.
More than in Denmark. And I tell you, I actually, before this EU experience, I wrote a book against EU. It's called The Lost Paradise, the Tapte Paradis, where I criticize this very United States of Europe. But when I became chairman of ENAR and worked closely with Commission and European Parliament and starting seeing, then I realized that European Union institutions are much more protective of minorities than Danish government is, or other governments are.
So that changed your view of the EU?
It changed my view in a positive way.
Yeah.
And also the free movement of people, free movement of goods and services, you know. I think it was a very beautiful experience, you know. And but while I was working for 10, 12 years with ENAR, and it's all voluntary work. I don't get any money for that. I must say that, because people say to me like I'm a millionaire. Everything is free. And then I realized that in Denmark and in Europe, discrimination is not about color anymore. Or it is, but it's not basically about color. It is more about culture and more about religion.
Yes.
So then I was invited to Israel, and I went there 3 times in 2005. Came back and established a Jewish-Muslim platform, and both we have also in Denmark and other countries. But at this very moment, I'm very involved with AMISCO, which is another organization. I'm General Secretary. It's called European Muslim Initiative for Social Cohesion. It's not a religious organization. It's an organization to do lobby to the governments, to the European institution, but also raise awareness among Muslim communities that when you live in a country, you are a citizen. You are not somebody coming from Mars or Moon, but you are a citizen. You must respect the laws. You must live as a good citizen. You should learn the culture of the country, practice your religion in a peaceful manner, and be a good neighbor. You know, so these principles we work and try to tell the Muslim community. So this is like, you know.
It sounds like very simple rules for
life is very simple.
Peaceful coexistence.
Life is very simple, Mass. We human beings make it difficult, actually. And 1 week before, I came from Malaysia, where I visited some universities and really saw how different communities, both Malay, who are Muslim, Chinese, who are Buddhist and Christian, and Indians, who are Tamil, who are Hindus, how they live in harmony. Nobody is above or less. And then
and it works.
It works beautifully. And then from Malaysia, I went directly to Paris to meet a delegation from Azerbaijan, and the same I learned from them. People from Jewish background, Christian background, you know, Muslim background, they are protected by the government. There is very clear laws that you cannot come with hate speech, or you cannot say that my religion is better than others. Of course, you can privately say, but you cannot tell other people that you are bad and I am good. And I think this kind of lessons are very important to bring to Denmark and other European countries and say, Europe is a very democratic continent. It has human rights. It has equality, but please practice it.
Yeah, but what actually happened? Because we were talking about your first experience of Denmark as an open and tolerant and welcoming country and society, but it changed. So how did we forget these things, and how do we relearn these values?
There are 3 culprits for this development. One, populist politicians. It started with Glistrup, and later Danish People Party took it over. And unfortunately, the more Danish People Party come with horrible statement and move to the right, the mainstream party are following them. Instead of saying to the Danish People Party, you cannot say those kind of things because it disturbs the peace and harmony of the society.
But our previous, sorry to interrupt, but our previous Prime Minister Poul Nyrup Rasmussen actually said that, and it backfired on him somehow.
I don't think it backfired, because Danish people and Europe, most Europeans are very decent people. They're not racist. They don't dislike anybody, but they get very affected by the populist, you know, statements and the media. You know, we are both working with the media. We know how much power media has.
Yeah.
So when every day newspapers, television, not so much radio, write about Muslims, write about black people, write about minorities, how criminal they are, what kind of bad influence they have in the society, then Mrs. Smith in a little town in Jutland start thinking in that way. She doesn't like this kind of news. But why only to bring bad news? There have been many contributions of minorities in Danish society.
So are you saying that the media is the second culprit here?
Media actually is the bigger culprit because they have power. They not only inform people, but they also perpetuate their agenda. They have to sell newspaper, they have to have bigger rating. And what is the best way to do? Give negative, bad news, you know. And media, I have been working with media, I do media monitoring, I have been giving lectures to journalists. Somehow media does not understand that freedom of speech is not unlimited. Freedom of speech in our Danish constitution is under responsibility. So if you come with racist statements or give time to racist people, you have consequences. But this has been now, has become a norm that you can say anything about Muslims and Islam and nobody bothers, you know. But if you say one little thing, for example, against gay and lesbian people, or against Jewish people, or against any other group, you will be very quickly, you know, taken to task. Why not to do it with all communities? You know?
Yeah. Why is that, do you think?
Unfortunately, Islam and Christianity, East and West, somehow are being presented as the enemy. Before it was Soviet Union. After the breakup of Soviet Union, you had nobody else to beat up. So they brought this, you know, Islam as the big enemy, as the other, and started talking about clash of civilization. So in the last 10, 12, and then unfortunately Al-Qaeda and Taliban and Boko Haram, they have done horrible work to create this situation where Islamophobia can take place, you know. So that is from both sides. But I always say to people I talk to that there are 1.7 billion Muslims. Even 1% is doing something bad, or 5, but 90% are not doing. So don't blame the whole Muslims.
No,
but,
but that often happens that some give the world of the Muslim world a bad name, like the Taliban.
They do that, and many Muslims condemn that.
Yeah.
It's not that we are happy about that, but the most important thing is that those Muslims who live in Europe are European citizens. They should be respected and protected exactly as any other citizen, and that is my big wish. But it's not happening.
No, but isn't it a bit tiring that as a peaceful, tolerant Muslim, that you have to each time one of these groups does horrible things, you have to denounce it?
You're very right.
Yeah.
I have written that in many newspapers. Why you are asking me to denounce something which has happened in Peshawar or in Kabul or in Nigeria? I have not done that.
No.
I don't ask Christians, all Christians, to denounce what, for example, this Norwegian extremist did, or with Ku Klux Klan in America is doing. So what we have to do is, we have to denounce individuals for what they do. We have to denounce groups what they do. We can also even criticize a culture, a religion, no problem with that. It's wonderful to criticize each other, but it should not be only one way. We should not only criticize one part and leave the other part intact and say we are the best in the world.
So it's a two-way street. It has to be a two-way street.
And it's also for integration of minorities and of Muslim communities. You need to have two principles for me. Number one, there should be very clear policy from the government saying we are an intercultural society, we are an interreligious society, we are an inter-ethnic society. Everybody is equal. Nobody is better or worse. We should not say, let's teach other Danish values. We should say we should teach each other universal values. That is very important. And the second thing is there should be legal protection mass. You know, I have been advocating for that for years and years, that freedom of speech is fine, but hate speech is not fine. And that is what is very important. There should be legal protection. And the third thing is that there should be media responsibility. Media should play their part into creating an atmosphere where minorities and majorities can live in peace, in their own spheres. I'm not saying that everybody should get married with each other, everybody should love each other. No, they should respect each other, accept each other, give them opportunities to function in the society. That is my biggest wish, you know.
Okay, but well, sounds reasonable to me, but how do we actually get there? I mean, you are doing into your work, you're writing, you're making your programs, but how can the average Danish person participate in this development of a more tolerant society?
Well, by taking part. You know, every time I meet young people, students or in NGOs, I always say to people, look, every time you see some bad news or read an article or see or listen to a radio program which you find disgusting, call the editor, call the journalist and say, hey, I'm also a taxpayer. I listen to your program. They are not good programs. Please think about that. So when there will be public pressure on them, when they will realize that somebody is watching and somebody is listening, then I think they will start thinking. And then again, coming back to protection, there should be legal remedies. You know, look, if a little doggy makes a shit on the floor in the street and the owner does not clean it, that owner can be punished, you know. There's a law in Denmark. But how can we just let this kind of nonsense, when people calling each other bad names or demonizing their religion and culture, and nothing happens? And you know, Denmark and Europe are democratic societies, but for heaven's sake, live as democratic society. Don't only claim it. You know, I'll give an example. The other day,
a brief one.
Sure, please. I saw the other day some politician saying, we are the one who dropped most bombs in Libya. Is it something to be proud of? Instead of saying we opened the most schools in the world.
Yeah, that is something to think about. Thank you very much for joining me in this program. I hope you've enjoyed it. See you next time.
Thank you.